Um, Dear Earthmates, we are visiting Maryjane in Nigeria, right?
Yes, absolutely correct. Lagos, Nigeria.
Uh, Sometimes you go somewhere else on the planet.
Yes.
You are a very active, uh, uh, I would say, life coach, um, entrepreneur, uh, very active, so
Yes.
inspiring. Would you
Yeah.
kindly uh, tell us things about yourself? Your,
Okay.
your corner.
Okay. So I heard what you said, but sometimes it was breaking up. I don't know if your volume is low. I don't know if there's anything wrong with your audio. Um,
Okay, do you hear me now?
yes, I do hear you now, even better than before. But
Okay,
I heard what you said, and so I'll just go ahead to answer.
okay.
Okay, yeah. So you're very correct. I'm very active, much in my earlier years. I think maybe when I was a teenager in the university, I discovered that I was multi-dimensional. That's what I used to say, multi-dimensional MJ. That's what they used to call me, because I was very active in the arts. I liked to speak, so I'd be called on to host events. I'd act, I'd dance. In fact, I became like the head of the choreography group. You know, at some point, yes, I was leading the dance troupe, and I've just always been that person. And in fact, my core, I studied history and international studies, and this is just giving you a background. And the reason why I studied it is because I really wanted to be an ambassador. I really wanted to be a diplomat somehow. I wanted to represent the entire nation before another nation, just have this sort of national international conversations. And I think, of course, that led me to study my second degree in international law and diplomacy. But away from the arts, I had this other passion. On the other hand, I was already coaching and mentoring younger people. I was like a teenager myself, maybe 19, 20, and I would be tutoring, those in their secondary school, which would be high school, people of 13, 12, 14, 15, 16. And I just had people suck up to me and they just loved me. Somehow I used to say that even when I was well into my 20s and 30s, now I'm 41. I'm 41 next week Sunday. Um, but back then, I would say that my teenage years are not far behind me, so that's why I could relate a lot with teenagers, you know, um, because I could relate to them, and I just wanted them to be the best that they could be. Anyway, fast forward, I began to say, okay, I need to focus on an area of passion that I would just how they'll say your career path, right? So I figured that acting came very naturally to me. Singing also, I had joined a band, a music group, and I was just going to act and sing and dance, and that's how I started off in the arts. I tried to get into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I just tried my bits to see what I could do with my diplomacy degree, but it just didn't work. So I was like, okay, you know what? There are too many parts of me, and I could settle with the arts, and that's how I started off, as an actress in Nollywood. And I continued as an actress. They discovered that I could speak really well and I could do great impressions and voiceovers. So I started doing voiceovers as well for brands, Ribena, Huggies, MTN. I would just do voiceovers for different brands. They would call me to voice. And then, so from acting, voice acting, I was like, my core interest is societal transformation. I like to say that back then I used to say I was a social catalyst. I was a social innovator. I'll just call myself different names to say, okay, this is where my passion lay. So I decided to do my own short film. It's titled V Cycle. It's on YouTube. I wish I sent it to you before now. It's on YouTube. Um, and what was it about? V cycle is vicious cycle. That's what the short form is, V cycle. And it was just showing how bad parenting or bad leadership in the society is typically a byproduct of bad parenting. And so I depicted it, and I just, in very few words, told a short story of how people who had experienced some sort of domestic violence, just went on to become those sort of people in the society that carried that hurt and that viciousness. And it's just, the cycle goes on. And it was a very good, in fact, it sparked up a lot of conversation because I put it in the Fringe Festival in Lagos a couple of years back. And, we exceeded our time. People were just talking. They were like, this is my story. This is me. I think I had become a young adult, and I was embarrassed by the sort of governance that we had in Nigeria. I would see leaders fight in the National House of Assembly, and it would just break my heart. And I remember as a young person, I'll say, don't they have parents? Aren't they well trained? Are their parents embarrassed? That's how I used to think as a young person. Why would two grown adults be fighting and their leaders in the National Assembly, in the House of Assembly, I just went on to do that film just to depict that. And people have gone on to show it in their different places, in churches. I've been called to show in church, in school, at different places, just doing my own part. And then I started off TALA. TALA is an acronym for the African Lady Ambassador. It's a coaching and mentoring, academy for mostly young ladies. It was supposed to, or it is what it does. In fact, there are two schools in TALA Academy. It's an academy that has two schools. The first school is the School of Discovery and Purpose. The second school is the School of Clarity and Emotional Wellness. And the courses are very simple. When you come into the academy, the first course is a self-discovery course saying, who am I? And it was just teaching people about who they are, that level of self-awareness. And I say to people that one of the most important things in the world is that you grow yourself enough to discover your purpose and embark on it, because life is like a journey of purpose. And on the first rung on the ladder of purpose, I tell them, is self-awareness, is self-discovery. That you must be curious enough about yourself to unpack your gifts, your talents, your skills, who you are, even your temperament, to see how you fit well in the world, to know your values, why you like this, why just that introspective tool that you're able to use every day, the tool of introspection and evaluation, in your own life, and to apply in the world around you. And so that's like one of the first courses you'll see. Another course on visioning, courses on purpose, courses on values, your core values, intrinsic, extrinsic values, and then your national values. It just became this entire course that started out in 2020. And the first cohort saw, the first three cohorts, I think, over 100 students from Rwanda, Kenya, Ghana, different parts of the world joined the courses. And it's been phenomenal. The School of Clarity and Emotional Wellness, the same thing, is clarity for wholesome living, is courses on mindfulness. A doctor came in to teach on overcoming depression, just people teaching on different things. It started off in 2020. I also I joined a friend of mine who started off his consulting firm, asked me to come in just after the country opened up again after COVID. So in 2021, I joined his startup then as a media and communications person. So I was heading the corporate communications department. Matter of fact, I had my hands in everywhere because it was a startup. So I was doing COO work, but I would just say, you know what, I'm doing corporate comms. That was a very instrumental phase in my life because it helped me marry my creative side to business, because it was a management consulting firm. A lot of creatives don't know the business of the creative, the business of the arts. We are just pushed and moved by passion, a lot of passion. A lot of creatives are passionate people, and we don't know how to monetize that passion. And sometimes I say passion is good. It's like fuel, but you need to have money to buy that fuel sometimes, because so there might get to a point where you might experience frustration and you're dissipating your energy too much and there's no commensurate, monetary value. So joining management consulting taught me a lot about finances, about economics, about, it was an eye opener for me, eye opener, because I had never really, really worked in a corporate firm, a corporate structure. So dealing with clients' portfolios. In fact, I went on to do quite a bit, even as a PR person, learning PR, because I would handle the Lagos State government was my client. So the Ministry of Physical and Urban Development in Lagos State, I worked with them. I was a consultant for them. I worked also on another project in the Ministry of Education. It just broadened my horizon. It really, really broadened my horizon. And I was like, fantastic. So not too long ago, when I set up Vertex with a friend, I'm a co-founder of Vertex. Is a digital media company in the UK and in Nigeria. Our focus is on media and film and animation. Using animation, that's our core focus for now. And we're morphing, though. We're morphing. We've just started a podcast show where we are. Africa is kind of like our focus. We are trying to develop this ecosystem of animators in Africa. I believe that with the advent of AI, the world is witnessing another sort of revolution where truly AI might take over, will take over. I think it's the inevitable. I think it was the same thing with like the discovery of fire, Thomas Edison's light discovery, the internet's discovery. The world just goes through all these phases of revolution. An innovation just comes and revolutionizes the way we think, we live, we feel, we interact with each other, and the way we conduct business. And people who are not nimble and agile enough to adapt are kind of like swept away. So how are you able to adapt? Don't stay focused on the usual way of doing business and say, okay, how can this be a tool for me? And you ride on the wave of that innovation. So it's the same thing. And one thing that I have noticed that happens with innovation is that it comes as, it's like a blessing in a way. It's some people who remain critics of that innovation seem to be left behind the train. But then it also comes to create this level playing field for people, to catch up. Is what the internet has done, is what social media has done. Now the Gen Zs, people are making money like they've never made before. It just comes to level people up. And I think that Africa can, through AI, level up, get into this space of ownership. Africans are really not owners. In fact, they just don't fight to own. If a friend said, you know what, Africans fought against oppression, they didn't fight for ownership. They fight for freedom. They don't fight for ownership. Yes, so they keep being consumers. There's a lot of consumerism mentality in Africa. So this is where we're coming to use this podcast as a tool of enlightenment to begin to shape our own narrative and work on the orientation of the minds of a lot of people, right? One of the things that I also did in my journey was active writing. I was writing every day. Facebook was a blogging tool for me. I also had a blog at the time that is no longer working, but I was writing a lot of articles. And my write-up was called Conversations with Maryjane, Impacting Conversation, one conversation, impacting humanity, one conversation at a time. So I wrote tons of poems. I had a Medium account that I was putting out a few of my works into, because some people said, MJ, there's Medium, and they would just come and say, throw your work in Medium, instead of just sending it to us on WhatsApp and just broadcasting it loosely, just compile some of your work. And thankfully, I opened a Medium account where I started writing a few things, including, I think, some of my poetry at the time. Then I wrote a book titled Much Ado About Social Media. It's also online at the moment. I think pretty much that would surmise my journey so far. So who am I right now? I'm a communicator. I'm a media strategist. I'm a communicator, and I don't know that it ends here. I know that I keep growing and evolving, and I'm in the spaces where life says this is where you should be. So in the same way I was pulled into management consulting, sometimes I don't know why I should be there at the time, but when I move out of there and look back, there's the advantage of the hindsight that makes me say, oh my goodness, thank God I really, really did that, because I needed those lessons as a tool for this place and my journey in the future. So yeah, right now I'm co-founder of Vertex. That's what I'm actively doing. I do a lot of I do quite a few speaking works and master of ceremony. I'm known as a master of ceremony here in Nigeria as well. So I host some of all these events, which is where Mr. Buckhart found me doing one of those hosting presentations. This is such a long answer. I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted, and I have been learning a lot. Thank you so much. 2 days ago, we had a brief conversation, which I enjoyed very much. And you expressed your impression when you visited our modest simple website, Earth Civilization or civilization.net. And thanks to our mutual friend, Bukat Herbote, we have met. What was your impression when you visited our website?
Yes, so yeah, like you called it modest, is indeed a modest website, but I did not think about it as modest, I must be honest. When I got in, I, the website is, you get in from all the craziness in the world and you come down, you're like, is like relief from all the chaos. It's very simple, but even more for me, I thought it was reflective of the sort of people that were part of this network. People who were simple, loving, warm, receptive, people who had humanity at heart, people who were, yes, like it said, writers, poets, journalists, people like that, who were just interested genuinely in mankind, no show offs, no, you know, people with aligned values. So personally, I loved it. I loved it. I think that if I had come into a place that was expertly designed with colors and fonts and brand, I think it won't stand out to me. I'll be like, okay, they're like a very serious organization, very, very serious, that's what I would say, organization, very serious. They're probably registered somewhere, and this is a big deal, big deal. So I'd sit up and, but this was just warm. I could read through the poems. I could, it was just really warm. And I personally liked it, please. In a world where everyone is trying to prove and there's all this narrative around branding and all this plenty drama, please just come into a place that feels like home, that feels like nature. Yes, that's what it feels like. It feels like nature without trying so hard to be nature.
Mm.
Yeah, it feels like nature without trying so hard to be nature. I think trying so hard to be nature would be now that you're putting some plants somewhere, sand and seas and beaches and all of that. But the website is not reflecting none of those. It's just very simple, very down to earth, very heartwarming for me.
Thank you so much. And your feedback, your approach is encouraging. Our goal path, as they say. Yes, we are on the same planet, and most of the people in the world want a peaceful life, with decency, and we all have things to learn from one another, and we need to improve the conditions of humanity for a global civilization, an Earth civilization, based on the awareness of the limits of our planet and the possibilities of synergy. That's how I enjoy, summarizing Golka. And what would you like to suggest or recommend to younger Earthmates in the world? When I say Earthmates, in the very large sense, all the beings and non-being, non-living on our planet, including our planet. And then more narrowly, all the people who consider themselves world citizens, who are concerned about humanity and nature, and even more narrowly, the network and etc. But whenever I start an interview by saying, "Dear Earthmates," I address the largest millions of people, ideally. Now, what would you like to recommend or suggest to younger, because you are younger Earthmates world? Imagine that you are now addressing to 8 billion people. Tomorrow it will be 10 billion people.
Okay. You know, the earth is ours. The earth is ours to take care of. The earth is our responsibility. And it's our duty on earth to learn how to be fruitful, to learn the principle of fruitfulness and multiplicity. That's multiplying that fruitfulness. So, and to be fruitful would be to say, what can you give? So I consider myself to be a seed growing into a tree, and not just any tree, but a tree that produces fruit for the world, like even for the birds of the air. I'm talking about for animals, for rest, for shelter, so for clothing, for be a vessel, be light in the world. There's too much going on. A lot is going on. We have a lot of darkness. We have people who are scarred, people who are traumatized, people who have come into the earth in the most through the most horrendous circumstances. There are people who were born and abandoned. There are people who were just conceived and, just maybe not parented right. People who encountered, you know, tragedies along the way. We have the duty and responsibility to make those people not, how do you call it, subdued, and let's just shine the light. It's a lot of negativity in the world. Let's be light. With our giftings, with our talents, we owe it to ourselves to find out every human being was intentionally placed here. It cannot be such a coincidence that every single person has a unique identification through our thumbs, or scientists that are discovering just our thumbprints. I mean, that every single person has a unique thumbprint. Every single person has a unique DNA. It just speaks to the intentionality of our individual beings, that we're here with gifts, talents, skills, things that are unique to us, and our assignments in the world is unique to us. And the earth is in need of that assignment. It's our job to find it out, figure out our gifts, our uniqueness, and use it to serve the earth, use it to serve the world, use it to serve and better humanity. And that's all I would say.
Thank you so much. And just a second, please. Yes. Thank you so much, dear Maryjane Ukbaja. delight to converse with you, and our good energy be fruitful. Our synergy will be wonderful, and I trust that, and uh, it will be great to be together. Thank you for joining Earth Civilians Network. Is there anything else you would like to mention now?
No, no. We talked a bit the last time, and today's okay. So I think I asked questions already.
Okay. Thank you. Just a second. I have a visual problem here. Yeah. Okay. So we're together, and let's keep our smiles, and let's keep doing good things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a beautiful evening. Bye.
You too.